Hey, and welcome, my fellow parents. Hey, we're making a really important episode here today. Some of my most popular social media videos that I've filmed have been entitled things like this: How to Build Identity in a Kid Who Struggles with Rage, How to Build Identity in a Kid Who Struggles with Negative Self Talk, How to Build Identity in a Kid Who Struggles with Impulse Control. Jordan, these videos have been filled by or watched by millions of people. Have you, by any chance, have you seen any of
Yeah.
these videos?
Yeah. I mean, you do a lot of them. And I think it's so great because at different stages of life, some of these will pop up and I'll be like, man, that is so relatable right now to me in my life and what our kids are going through. But you don't hear that from a lot of people because
No.
the reality is like, how do we even
Yeah.
know that our kids are trying to figure out their identity? We just assume that they already
Yeah.
know it because we already know ours. But
Yeah.
it took us maybe a lifetime to figure out
Thank
our
you.
identity.
Yeah. And so like I made those videos because I like it's one thing to make a cool video or to give, you know, good tools if you're working with me one-on-one or in my membership, like here's how to respond if your kid is says this to you or if your kid is having angry outbursts. But really
Yeah.
what we're doing here is much deeper, because what happens is, like, for example, if a kid is struggling with anger and your response is, gosh, you're just an angry person, you got problems, you need counseling,
Right.
you have anger
Yeah.
management, well, then what you're doing,
Stop being so
yeah,
angry.
you're
Yeah.
actually speaking that identity into them, and there's a chance they're going to be like, I'm just an angry person. And if a
Okay.
child believes they're an angry person, well, then how are they going to act?
Angry. So then we have to,
Yeah.
I guess, what, highlight the opposite?
Yeah, we have to highlight.
Be like, I know you're angry right now, but I'm so glad,
Right.
yeah, I guess, how would you
Here,
do
let me give
that?
you a
Because,
sample.
like,
Yeah.
what I remember from your
Yeah.
videos is like, let's say the kid got an A or even a
Okay.
B on
Okay.
homework. Instead of you'd say like, hey, I'm so proud of you for getting that grade. You'd say, I'm so proud of the work you put in
Mm.
to get that grade.
See right there is a part of building identity, because you're highlighting the effort, not the outcome, right? And
Right.
you're putting your emotional connection in the effort, not the
Right.
outcome. So here, let me give you a
But if our kid
sample.
gets angry a
Yeah.
lot,
So
yeah.
here's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna give you a little sample of something you might have seen, and how to what that actually looks like. And then Jordan and I are going to spend a little bit of time looking at high level, like, child psychological identity development. And then we're going to talk about in everyday
Okay.
terms that Jordan and I do, and we're going to give you tips and tools for along the way. This is super important. Like, everyone just take a breath and think about, like, how did your parents do building identity in you? Did they speak life into you? Did they speak truth? Did they speak goodness? Or did they tear you down? Did they call you names?
Right.
Did they break you down? And now you've had to rebuild yourself on your own through your own work or your own identity or your own successes. You know, this is why a parent's word is so powerful. And this is why I'm glad we're doing this. We might even do
Well, me
part two
too.
on
I
this.
mean, I was just thinking, I don't even know when I realized what my identity was. I think I was still searching for who
We're going to
I
talk about
am
that.
through
Of course.
college, right?
We're
Like,
actually
I
going to
mean,
talk
even
about
young
that. Yeah,
adulthood.
man, that's all part of what we're going to see here. So I filmed a video. I was in Cancun, Mexico, a couple weeks ago on, like, this incredibly beautiful beach, but it was so windy. And I filmed a great video. And I said to my friends that I was with, and I said to my wife, there's a chance the wind was so strong and I didn't use a mic, which I
You
should
couldn't
have. I
hear.
was like, and I actually had numerous people said that this video is so important. I'm begging you, Sean, please do a redo. So here's a little sample of a redo of how to build identity in a kid who struggles with perfectionism.
Ooh, okay. This is good because some of us have those, right? Need to get an A on every
Like, it
test.
makes me wonder, like, even your son, he's an excellent gymnast. Does he struggle with perfectionism sometimes? I don't.
No, actually, it's so funny.
Oh.
I'm more of like, dude, you could have stuck that. Why didn't you stick that? He's like, what are you talking about, Dad? I did great.
Oh,
He'll tell me
that's
like, I'm so
awesome.
awesome, and I'm like, you know what, you are, dude. Why am I
Dude,
such
that's
a
so
stickler? Like,
cool.
it's so funny.
It kind of would make sense that it seems to me that someone in the gymnastics field would struggle with perfectionism, because there's
Yeah, he might as he
a
gets
certain
older because
profile type, right?
it's judged by the fraction of a
There
point.
you
So,
go.
but but
Yes.
but I'm trying to say like, dude, this is just I want you to have fun. I want you to be part of a team. You don't have to get the best score. Getting a medal is great, and
Yeah.
we love it, and he loves it
Yeah.
too. But it's great to not have them be like that, because I've seen kids before, if they don't make a certain number, they'll cry.
Yeah,
They'll just start
yeah,
crying and they'll be all
yeah.
upset. And I'm like, that's no
This
fun.
is a good example of how. And if you want more work on this, if you have a child who struggles with impulse control, anger management, always bothering their sibling, just having negative self-talk, within come and talk with me one-on-one or join my membership, and I'll give you some role playing, give you some great tools. So here's essentially some things to think about as a small little short sample of if your child is struggling with perfectionism, or you, or maybe your spouse. So this is, just take this with a grain of salt, but oftentimes a child that's struggling with perfectionism, it's really started in their self-talk because they're building their identity in their performance. Like, I need to get this A. I need to get this score in gymnastics. I need to win my soccer game. I need to look pretty. I need to be seen with the cool crowd. I need to be seen with this crowd. I need to perform this way in my video game, because if I do these things, then I feel good inside. But more than that, this is my brand. This is my reputation. This is what people
Right.
see me as. This is who I
Right.
am. Because if I didn't do these things, well, then who am I? Well, then the voice says to them, it says, well, you're a loser. You're no good.
Right.
You're a piece of crap. You're not going to be successful. What's the point? Who
Yeah.
are you then? You're a nobody.
fail
You're never
anyway.
going to go to a good
Yeah.
college. No one's going to like you.
What is that? Why do we have a brain that does that? That's so freaking annoying.
Mhm.
All of us have this, and we have to overcome it.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you an example for a second. Is that
Please.
okay?
No,
Before you
I'm
give me your
glad you
tip?
jumped in. I love what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. So we recently had a talent show that my daughter had decided to go into, but she at first was like, no, I don't want to. I'm not going to win. And I'm like, well, why do you have to win? She goes, I'm not very good. She wants to sing, and she takes little singing lessons, and she loves singing. She sings all the time. She has a beautiful voice.
So nice.
And like, I had to figure out, me and my wife had to figure out how to speak identity into her to make her feel confident to get on that stage and sing. It doesn't matter if you were going to win. And it was tough. But what my wife did, which was amazing, because I was like, to the point where I'm like, fine, then don't sing. And she'd be like, but I want to sing.
God,
okay, then do it. No, but I'm scared, and I'm not going to win. Okay, then don't sing. But I want to. And it was just a circle of, and me and my daughter, I'm like, okay, you're driving me nuts. Get out of here. So my wife found a different purpose for her to get on stage, which is amazing. She said, why don't you do it for your younger brother, your brother who has Down syndrome? Why don't you sing on his behalf? And it was like, then she was like, oh, I have a purpose. Okay. And we were like, it doesn't matter if when you're doing it for him, you're raising awareness about what it means to have a brother with Down syndrome. Go up there and represent him. And she was like, okay.
Wow.
And it was awesome. It was really cool to see that.
Such a great story. I can't speak for her because she's 10, double digits. She just turned 10. But the stories you tell about her and her twin brother, it sounds like part of their identity is, I am Kinlan's brother, and it's my job to love him, serve him, care for him. That's who I am. That's part of my identity. Do you believe that is part of her identity now? She's building that.
Yes, 100%. And we could see that, which is super cool.
Like, isn't that incredible?
It's cool.
And
because you're right. Because if it's about the act of singing or getting an A or scoring a goal or whatever it is, you're likely going to get disappointed because there's a lot of failure there. You have to find a different reason to go up and compete, get on stage, take that test, whatever it is.
We all, become who we are as adults from nature and nurture. And a parent doesn't have much or any say over a child's nature, but they sure do over nurture. So what we're talking about is a 10-year-old girl here today who's grown up in a nurturing environment where the parents for years now have built identity in her. Like, this is what it means to be Kinlan's older sister. And it's clearly going well because she's not perfect with them, but she's great. And she's now, she's just seeing like, this is who I am. And so if it's okay with you right now, or sometime this episode, as these memories keep coming up, tell us more things you've said to her of how, or her brother, Kenan, about how you've built this identity into them, right? As stories come up. Is that cool?
Yeah, 100% will
So
do.
now let's jump back to perfectionism. Here's a couple tips and tools for how you can work with someone with perfectionism. It's so interesting. We went from how to build identity in a child who struggles with perfectionism, and then we bounced over to how to build identity in a child of a sibling of Down syndrome, right? It's like the list is infinity.
Yeah,
How to build identity in a
right.
child who has 6 siblings, right? How to build
Sure.
identity in a child whose parents
An only
only
child.
child, or parents are struggling with
Sure.
poverty, or parents
Sure.
who are divorced or struggling, or whose parents are very wealthy. These are all things. That's something that is really interesting. That's actually a part of my work. I help parents who are very wealthy build a positive identity in their kids, not based on their wealth or on greed. Isn't that interesting? Like no one ever, everyone
That's
talks about
good.
poor
Yeah.
kids, but nobody ever talks about
Right.
kids of wealthy parents. That's interesting, huh? All right, so
Yeah.
here's a couple things it might sound like. Okay, so we have to couple things to think about is that if your child is doing negative self-talk, which is a common symptom of someone who struggles with perfectionism, then you want to consider that as a blessing, because you know what's happening is that their internal dialogue is now becoming external, which is good because now you know what they're thinking about. So if they say things like,
Okay.
you know what, I got a grade, I'm so stupid, I can't do this, um, I'm just a loser, or I need to, then just be happy about that, because now you're getting a glimpse. Do's and don'ts. Here's some don'ts.
That's
Instead of
that's
saying
good.
don'ts like, oh, you'll feel better soon, honey. No, everyone, you can't be perfect. Or you know what, it doesn't matter. You'll do better next time. Or don't be so hard on yourself. You have to realize these type of little pep talks or lectures, they don't work. They go in one ear and out the other.
I know, but it's like that's our
It
natural
sure is.
inclination is to like do that
Right.
pep talk right then
Yeah.
and there.
Yeah, it sure is, because it's loving and we're trying to help them, but also because it pushes our buttons. Hearing our kids talk
That's
crap
true.
about themselves. They're
That's
actually
true.
bullying themselves.
Yeah.
So you realized
Tearing
that what
themselves down.
you've got to realize, go deeper. What's really going on is this child's building identity in their performance, and you've got to go deeper than just speaking on the
So
surface.
do we go deeper in that moment that they're
Yeah,
doing that?
yeah, you sure could, or you could just wait, because teaching moments don't happen all the moment. Here's a couple things that I found. This is a short little sample. I could go on and on this topic for probably over an hour, but a couple things you could say. Say, hey, you know what? If you want to be upset about this grade, then you are free. Tell me more. Yeah. Why are you upset? Okay. That makes sense. So then you just validate them in that dark space that they're in. Hard to do. Hard to
Okay.
do.
Sure.
And then you could say, so do you think it's good for you to be, so hard on yourself? And then they're going to say yes. Or they're going to say, I don't know. You with me so far?
Yeah, because they're
Mm-hmm.
frustrated too.
So
Yeah.
now you are their person. So they're going to tell you, yeah. And then they're going to tell you things like, yeah, if I'm not hard on myself like this, then, who am I? Or this is just how my brain thinks, Mom. I can't stop. So you could say, look, I just want you to know that if you want to be hard on yourself, then that's your choice. But I'm not going to do that. If you want to live like this, if you want to beat yourself up, if you want to be like, you feel like you have to be perfect, then I just want you to know that's your choice. You don't have to do it. I don't think it's good for you, but you're doing that. So see what I did there before? Did you see what I did right there? What did you see me do in your own kind of take on that?
My take on it is you're advising or talking to them and making them think about how they're talking to themselves, because ultimately you're A, saying, hey, I'm not doing this to you, you're doing this to you. And then B, they're thinking like, I am doing this to
Yeah,
myself.
well
Why am
said.
I doing this to myself?
Yeah, you're bringing awareness of their own personal responsibility over their own inner monologue is up to them.
And in that moment, they might be like, good, I
Yep.
deserve it. And
Yep.
you know what I mean? Because they're in that moment. But I think that conversation you're having with them is going to stay with them. Even if they say that in that
Mm-hmm.
moment later, they'll
Tip
think
2,
back to that
you could
moment.
ask them, hey, do you feel like this is good for you to be so hard on yourself? Is it working for you?
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
dumb.
All right.
Yeah, because
Well,
I'm
I
dumb.
don't feel like it's good
Yeah.
for you, but if you feel like this is good for you, and I respect your decision. I just want you to be thinking
Okay.
about this. Is it good for you to be
Yeah.
so hard on yourself? See, what you're not doing, you're not lecturing them, you're not parenting them, you're not guiding them. You're just inviting them to practice mindfulness over this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Think about your words. I'm always saying, like, do you know how powerful your
Yeah.
words are? They're probably like, no, what are you talking about? Don't be dumb, Dad. And I'm like, dude, words, they're so important. The way you talk to yourself is so important. You're going to start to believe
I
it.
don't think that's dumb. I think that's really good parenting. You're teaching them about the power of their words and their mind.
Yeah.
Here's another. Here's another tip. Hey, I'll use my last name, Donohue. Okay. Hey,
Okay.
I want you to know that you are not this great. You are not this great. Whether you get A's or you get F's, you're a Donohue, and you don't need to perform here. You are enough. You are enough. You don't need to do well in karate. You don't need to do well in football. You don't need to do well. You don't need to act out. You don't need to perform. You are enough just who you are. And I want you to know that.
Yeah, that's very, very New Testament of
Oh,
you.
what do you mean New Testament?
Well, like Jesus didn't come down to look for
good.
perfectionists. He came down to look for
That's good.
people who are just
That's good.
everyday people. You're enough. You don't have to do anything crazy to get my love. So you're saying, like, you don't have to do anything. You get
Yeah.
my love. You're my
Wow,
child.
beautiful, man. Good, beautiful spirituality. I believe in that and what you said. Oftentimes, what society teaches kids or bad parenting teaches kids is, no, you need to do this. You have to get good grades. You have to go to a college. You need to do these things. If you don't do them, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you might be subconsciously sending your kid a message that they have to perform to get your approval. And
Now, this has got to be hard, though, with some families who have, let's say, status. Let's say you're a politician.
yeah,
Let's say you're a CEO of a
Yeah.
company and you
Yes.
need
yeah,
your family to look a certain
Yes.
way. That's got to be
Right.
very hard.
What's also hard, just to
Because
piggyback.
what if you have that child that goes down the wrong path and you're like,
Let's
you
double
know?
down on that. Not changing the subject at all. Often, many of us adults, parents, listen to this right now. We developed our identity based on our performance. I'm a mom. That's who I
Right.
am. If I wasn't a mom, I'd be a nobody.
Yeah.
I'm a CEO. I'm a mechanic. I'm a sports fan. I was nothing. I'd be nothing if I didn't have this. So then it's
Yeah.
like a mind game to them. What do you mean? I'm supposed to now parent my kids differently? That does kind of make sense. It sounds lovely. But then how do I do that? Because that was not given to me. I had to perform. You with me? This is like deep mind stuff.
Yeah, but the confusing part is society has identity built for us based on our career. You go to an event. Hey, what do you do for a living? What do you And it's like, if you have nothing to say, who are you in the eyes of society?
Right.
Right.
You have to be
So,
somebody.
like, for the longest time, being a stay-at-home dad, let's say, you look down upon.
Yep.
Now, if I see a stay-at-home dad, I'm like, that's so awesome. I give him a fist bump. I'm like, dude, that's so
lucky
awesome.
Dog. Right.
Right. But for the longest time, it's like, oh, really? That's, I'm a janitor. You're like, oh, that's what you're like. No, that's not who I am. That's just what I do
Yeah.
for work right now.
Right.
I always bring it back to movies. There's a movie called Stardust. It's got Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer. It's a really cute movie. And basically, there's this shop boy who really likes his girl, and he's like, I really want to date you, and she's like, well, you're just a shop boy, and he's like, no, I'm not. This is what I do for work. This isn't define who I am. This is just what I'm doing right now.
Here's two stories. One about parenting, one about me. Hey, son, I know you love lacrosse and you're good at it and you love it, but I want you to know, that's not who you are. You are not a lacrosse player. You are my son. You are a sibling. You're a grandson. You're a friend who happens to play lacrosse right now and who's having fun with it. But that's not who you are. You happen to play lacrosse right now. And so if something were to ever happen in lacrosse, you get injured or you change your heart or it doesn't work out or you just want to do something else, then that's okay. So see, what we're doing here is we're speaking identity into someone who's excelling at lacrosse, but that's not who they are, because if he builds his identity that I'm a lacrosse player, what's going to happen if he gets injured, if he doesn't make the team, if he goes from a starter to a bench player? Do we want our child building their identity on their performance? We don't. We want them to build it on something like a rock, whether it be beautiful
Yeah.
spirituality, your Christian
Yeah.
beliefs, or in the family values, or just your worth as a human being is enough.
Makes sense. In high school, I had a friend whose dad was a football
I
player,
know who you're talking
NFL, went to the
about.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
me. I know exactly
And
we can't say his
his
last name.
son,
Yeah.
who I could,
You
but
want to?
it's okay. I
Yeah.
won't.
Okay.
But no, that's okay. Anyway, Super Bowl player back in the day, played for the Niners, and his son was on our football team. So his dad was an assistant coach. It was always so hard on that player because this kid was that football player's firstborn. And there was like this expectation that you're supposed to be great at football and follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's that weight there. And if the parents don't let the kids know that it's okay to not do that, he was kind of, it wasn't his first passion. It just wasn't. You would talk to him in high school and he had other passions, but I don't know if that was okay by his dad. I don't know what their conversations were
it
like.
makes me think of, there's a popular saying, you might have said it before. I've never heard you say it, and I hate it. It's a popular saying, and it actually builds identity in your kids, and I've got a problem with it. Have you ever heard this saying or said it? If you're going to do it, you have to do it 100%. Or it sounds like this. If you're going to play sports, you just need to go 100%. That's all I ask. You have to give it your all.
Right.
If you're going to do anything, you have to give it all. See, what you're doing here is you're trying to build identity in a child, which could be a good thing. But who says you have to give identity? You have to be 100%. Who says, like, Dad, I'm a sophomore in high school. Can I just give 80%? I'm not like you. It's soccer. Mom, I'm not like you. I don't want to give 100%. I'm not into this. I'd rather give some 50%.
Yeah, I get that. But sometimes we expand that and say, you need to do this for your teammates, not for me. They're counting on you.
Yeah.
Right? If I show up at my job and I'm not giving it my all, then my company could ultimately fail, let's just say. So I have to try to do my best. So I think sometimes we say you got to do this so that you are there for your teammates. And hopefully it would build some kind of like, I got to step up when the team needs me.
Yeah.
And instead of for me, I don't need you to do it for me. That's a good point. Cause you're saying you need to give 100%. And that's like saying, cause I need you to give 100%.
Yeah. But what if the teammates are like, you know what? We're in seventh grade.
Then that's fine.
It's okay if you don't give 100%.
Okay,
We're here on travel baseball team. It's okay if you just have fun. Have fun out there, right? Like there's a counter argument to that. Like it's even senior in high school.
Yeah.
There's so many seniors in high school, they do not like their varsity sport. They don't like it because it's not fun. And so if I was a senior in high school, I'd be like, hey guys, varsity, we're seniors. Let's try to win the championship. But most of all, guys, let's friggin' have fun here. Let's not let these coaches ruin it. Like, I want you to have fun. And let's have a great senior year together, win or lose. Now, that is identity right there.
Yeah.
Now, in a second, I'm going to break out the sheet that I had in front of you from this famous dead psychologist called Erik Erikson. He developed this thing I started studying in grad school. He developed this thing called developmental stages or developmental psychology for children. Super interesting. And I think this knowledge will help you understand yourself, your children, and your parenting. And let's talk about it. And then we're going to also, I'm just going to ask Jordan some questions that come up. And this has been such a fascinating topic. I think we're going to make this a part one of a series. All right. So let's pick this up. If you're digging this, then if you're listening to this, you can go back or in the future and you can say, I'm going to go to find part 2 and 3. So Jordan, can I share with you? Are you ready for this? Now I want everyone to imagine like a chart
what does he say?
in front of them. And here's what I'm going to explain.
Like a bar graph?
A bar graph. No, it's like a chart, like rows and columns, like an Excel sheet. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, so on the left, we have his stages. So on the left, here's the stages. Infancy, which is from 0 to 1.
Yep.
Early childhood, 2 to 3. Childhood, like play, it says, which is 4 to 6. Childhood school, which is 7 through 12. Ages 7 through 12. Adolescence, teenage years, 13 through 19.
Okay.
Young adulthood, 19 through 35. Yeah. Okay,
Whoa,
so that's
okay.
Yeah, that's where you are. You're still there.
True, though. It's like some people are like, "Oh, I'm 27," and the older
I
people are like, "Oh,
know.
you're such a baby." And you're
Right,
like, "No,
I
I'm
know.
27. What are you talking about? I'm a full
And
grown
then you're in
adult."
my stage now, which is adulthood, 35 through 55. And then you've got
Dude, you're almost in
And then you got
grandpahood.
maturity, which is 55 and up. I know, almost in grandpahood. All
I'm
right,
just
so are you
teasing.
ready? Let's go through the stages, and we're going to break down this
Yeah.
chart. Okay, so how to developmental
Okay.
stages of their identity. Okay, so they're brand new. They're less than 1 year old. Their main relationship,
Look at you.
yep, their main relationship is their mother, and the main thought they're
Yeah.
thinking is, am I secure? Attachment,
Yeah.
psychology. Can I trust?
I remember that feeling actually as a younger boy. The most safest feeling I ever had was in my mom's arms. I still have that feeling today.
So-
Like I remember that feeling of feeling secure in my mom's arms.
Dude,
That's like
so
that's where the
beautiful.
safest I would be.
Said.
So I get that.
Dude, you got to send this episode to your mom. Like, dude, that's like, I mean, that's like the most beautiful
I still
thing
remember
a
that.
child could ever say.
Okay,
It's
move
just
on.
so
Move
beautiful the way you
on.
talk sometimes. You got to send this to Velvet. Hey, Velvet. So yeah, the child is thinking, can I trust? This is why some children have serious trauma because they do not have attachment theory. They get reactive attachment disorder in the ages before 1 because they're like, I can't trust this parent to change my diaper. I cry and they give them food and they're doing crack or they're working or they're not there. They're ignoring me or they put an iPad in front of me. You can really screw up a child.
So we're already learning.
That's the
trust
number
at
one
that
thing they're
age.
learning. Trust and security.
That's
Can I
crazy.
trust them to be there for me?
Wow.
Right? This is why children need dads too. This is why you see a lot of dads take their shirts off. I did that too when the baby comes out of the womb. And it's about that skin to skin contact. Like, I'm here. Smell me up, kid. You're going to get used to this chest. All right.
Right. Just curious, what age is that?
Right. You're a teenager. All right. Let's move.
Hey,
all right. Now we're going 2 to 3. Now, what they're thinking in their brain, their identity is autonomy versus doubt and shame. Okay. Independence versus I have doubts. I'm on my own. I'm scared. I'm alone. Think of, what I think of right now is, that early daycare situation, or you drop your kid off at church.
That's so
church like class, and the kid's freaking out.
Sure.
And their main relationship is their parents. So now we're bringing in the other parent.
Yep.
2 parents, and they're wondering themselves, how can I be independent? So how can I be alone? Am I allowed to be alone? Am I afraid? How do I do this? Does that make sense?
That's good. Yeah. Is this also where they learn about like this might not be in it, but like sharing? What's mine? What's yours? Like, because every
You're a
kid has
genius.
mine.
So
Mine.
another sheet I'm looking at is toddlers learn to exercise will and do things for themselves, or they doubt their abilities. And they're learning about like these things, like what's mine, what's not, what am I going to do? How do I use my freedom and self-restraint? Yep. Okay, good call. All right, now we're going 4 through 6. All right, you got a kid in that stage, right? This says, Erickson writes, it's initiative versus guilt.
Initiative
Main
versus
relationship
guilt.
is family. Now we're bringing in siblings.
Yes. Okay.
And the main question is, how can I be powerful?
In front of my siblings,
Just in
or
life.
like above my siblings? Maybe I'm trying.
Yeah,
my voice is trying to be heard because
Yep.
my siblings are screaming
They're
and
now they're
overtaking
hitting.
my voice. Yeah.
They're saying no.
Yep.
They're saying I won't brush my teeth.
Okay.
What else do these kids do at this age? They fight.
Oh, they fight. They play. They get a little hurt. They it's interesting because there's a lot of studies on singletons versus kids who have siblings, right? And like they say, I meet a lot of kids in my world who have a family with a kid with Down syndrome, and after they had one, they don't have any more because they're worried about having maybe another kid with special needs, so they just stop. But what I find is so helpful is that when all kids have siblings, because they can learn that stuff without parents teaching them, they learn it with each other.
That's good. And the main thing they're thinking at this age is purpose. Like, what's my purpose? The ability to initiate or own activities and my own goals, right? My own stuff. All right, let's move on to now here we go. Now we're in the, 7 through 12. They're in school. They're in first grade and they're in middle school. Their main
Oh,
relationship is not family anymore. Their main relationship is their neighbors and their school.
mm. Yeah, because they're away from the
Hmm.
house so much.
So they're not their main
Right.
relationships are, their neighbors and their school.
And probably because they
Yep.
already feel
Mm-hmm.
safe with their
Mm-hmm.
family, they've already got
Mm.
that. So now they're
Well
learning how to
said, dude.
branch out.
Gosh, you're good at this podcast
Yeah.
thing. That's so good. And their main question is really interesting. Wow. Wow, that's interesting. How can I be good? Yeah. Isn't
Oh,
that
really?
interesting?
Oh, that's
Isn't that
great.
interesting?
At least it's not the opposite. 'Cause some kids are like, why aren't you
Children learn the
good?
pleasure of applying
How
themselves to
can I be good?
tasks, or they feel inferior. How can I be good? Good enough.
Hmm. Yeah. I love it when my kids make me
Mhm.
laugh. Because then you
Mhm.
could tell they are like, oh my gosh, I did something cool. I made my parents laugh.
That is
I'm going to
something
do it
I've
again.
seen build in all three of my kids' identity. That I'm funny. I can make my laugh. I love seeing that. Like I believe
Yeah.
in this. Now,
Yeah, me
the
too.
main virtue when you're talking about school-age children is we did competence. Oh, it's competence. The last one was purpose. Competence. Like, am I
Yep.
competent? Am I good enough? Can I stick with the flow?
Can
Makes
I do
sense.
it? Yeah. And that goes back to self-talk. Like
Yep.
a lot of these kids, if they
Hmm.
can't do a math problem, they
Oh
just
yeah,
immediately like, I'm so dumb, I can't
that's
do
where
it.
you
You're
see
like, oh my
the
gosh, okay.
growth mindset.
We have to
Yeah,
speak
the growth
identity into
mindset and
you.
the fixed mindset is going to start happening. We're even as early as the kindergarten age or the middle school
Yeah.
age. All right, now we're getting into the teen years.
Yeah.
All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna. This is like a riddle. Oh
Why are
gosh.
these
Well,
years
you're
so
about to
hard?
find out. You're about to find out.
Everyone
Okay.
dreads these years.
So, all right, teen years, adolescent stage, main struggle in their brains: identity versus role confusion. So, identity versus confusion.
Trying to figure out their
I'm
identity.
confused.
Dude, gosh, that's got to be
Mm-hmm.
so freaking tough these
Oh,
days
amen.
with the
My
identity
gosh,
problem we
I
have in
know.
America
I
right now
know.
in our schools. My gosh,
I
it's got to
know.
be
We're
so
gonna pick up
confusing
on
for
that
these
on part
kids.
two.
Before
I
it
know.
was confusing. And
Look at this. Actually, I'm going to do it. I wasn't planning on doing this, but here we go. I'm going over to
he's
another
doing it. Everyone
article.
listen.
I'm
He's
going to
doing
read
it.
this off.
Here he goes.
All right. Maybe we'll expand on this, maybe
Okay.
not. Types of identity. Here we go
Okay.
from Berkeley
Uh-oh.
Wellbeing Institute. Ready? Racial identity, sexual orientation,
Okay.
family identity,
Oh,
ability,
geez. Okay. Yep. Okay.
body identity,
Ability. Okay.
generational identity,
Oh.
edu-
Oh, generational identity at this
educational
age. Oh,
identity,
interesting. Okay.
career identity,
Okay.
gender
Already.
identity. No, it
Yeah,
was
you said that
different.
one.
Did I? No. I said
Oh,
sexual identity.
I thought you did.
Now
No?
we're going gender identity, right?
Oh, you didn't say gender. I did. Okay.
And then you've got socioeconomic identity,
Oh my gosh, this is all
cultural
happening at this
identity,
age.
political identity. And
What?
I don't know about you, but I am relating back. Yep, this is the teenage brain. This is me in high school. I struggled with all these things. And then, of course, identity
Well,
crisis.
yeah, we all
like,
did.
I'm sure many of us.
Well, not all categories, but some of them.
I remember I was a star basketball player, and then I realized in high school, I've told this story before, I'm not a star anymore, and I'm never going to be. So I'm not going to be a basketball identity anymore. I'm going to try different things. This is gonna make
But
you
you
laugh.
still play it because it's
So
fun.
then I tried changing my identity to be a surfer, and I sucked at surfing, and it wasn't fun. And I was like, okay, this is not my thing. I don't like surfing that much.
Yeah.
And I need to pick
Yeah.
something else. So I actually picked being the funny guy, class clown. And I was actually good at that. I actually got voted Rancho Bernardo High School class of 1997 most likely to host a talk show. And now I have a talk
dude,
show.
That's so cool. That's hilarious. I know. You know what's funny though? That
Mhm.
identity, whatever that category is
Yeah.
of those subjects, can define us depending on where we live.
Yep.
Think about how more cowboys you
Mhm.
see
Yep.
in the plains, in
Yeah.
the Midwest, maybe the South, than you do in
Yes.
coastal California. how many
Yeah.
surfers you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
your community can help shape that identity. You felt like you want to be a surfer because
Right.
you lived in California and there were surfers there. But if you
Yeah.
lived in Oklahoma City, would you want to have been a bull
You can
rider?
see it at your
Maybe.
kid's local high school. You can see these kids are
Yeah.
branding themselves. This is what I want to be known as, and this is why you see them dressed the way they
Right.
do. And what might have been hard for you is
Right.
that you end up marrying your high school sweetheart. So part of your identity was that you were Danny's boyfriend, and Danny was her identity was she is Jordan Higley's girlfriend, and
Girlfriend.
you must have
Didn't
liked
even
that
think about that.
identity
Right.
because you didn't break up.
Sure.
You know,
I had so many identities in high school. And I think that's important for us before we understand our identity when you're going through that stage of life, because you don't really know what your identity is. So being if the let's just say if culture
right?
is going to help shape your identity, it's so good to have our kids do so
Well
many
said.
things so they can figure out what their identity
Also, it's
is.
so good to speak this language, which I modeled for you early on, and Jordan modeled for us too.
Yes.
Because see, let's say your child, let's is like they're going to be struggling with their identity, and they're building their identity as they're into drama or they're into something
Right.
negative. Their identities around partying or drugs or acting out, or
Yeah. Yeah.
they're building their identity in their beauty and their sexuality or in their schoolwork. Some of these are good, some of these are bad. I'm just mishing them all up here, right? This is why it's so important for you to just be so present, connected with your teenager, and say you are enough. And whatever identity you
Yeah.
choose or you change through these years, I'm here. This family loves you. We're your rock, and we're going to support you through this. Does that make sense?
It's like that 80s
Ooh,
movie, The Breakfast Club, right? You got your
that's
category.
good.
You got your bully, you've
Love
got
that.
your nerd, you
Keep
got, you know what
going.
I
Keep
mean?
going.
You've got
Yeah.
your cute girl, your sports girl, you've got, you know what I mean? It's like you don't have to be in this
Mm-hmm.
category is what you're saying. Like, let's say society makes our kids or us
Mm-hmm.
feel like this is our
Yeah. Yeah.
our category, or it makes us feel like this is our identity. That's not
So
necessarily
good.
the case.
That's good. And this is why it's so hard. Let's going back to that football player. His dad was a ex-pro. He's like, he's playing football, but what happens if he's like, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't like football anymore? That'd be hard for him to quit football
Right.
because his whole
Yes.
identity is in football, and his dad is raising him to be a football player, and like that's your identity.
Right.
But in reality, the dad in this, it's just so egocentric and selfish. He doesn't have the flexibility to be like, you know what, you're my son, so you should do what makes you happy, and I won't support negative things, but if it's healthy, I'm going to support you. And you should build your identity on healthy things. And if that means not being a football player, you do what you, and I am here and I believe in you.
Right.
You are enough.
It's interesting because you talk about generational identity, and some of these generations have been a vacuum
Mm-hmm.
store,
Mm-hmm.
seller for our entire family since a vacuum was created, or whatever it is, right? We're painters. This is what we do. We've
Yep.
been painting for generations. And you expect the
Yep.
kid to take over the business, and the kid's like, listen, I have different dreams. I want to do something else. And it breaks the parent's heart. She's like, no, 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 no. This is my dad did, and his dad did, and his dad's
This is
dad
what
did,
we
and
do.
this is what we do.
You have to
can't
work
break off the
hard. You
path.
have to get A's. You have to do this. You got to put everything. You have to put more effort into this. This is what we do in this family. So I'm
Right.
going to close our episode
Right.
with a really great tip in about 1 or 2 minutes. But let me share what else I'm looking at on this sheet. Okay, so teenage years, ages 13 to 19. Their brain, what their brain is thinking is identity versus role confusion. And their main relationship is no longer family. It's no longer neighbors or school. Take a big
Right.
guess. Who is their main relationship focus? Yeah.
Friends.
It's their group. You are not their person anymore. It's about their peer group. And one of the main thoughts that they're thinking is like, am I a part of this group? And do they accept me in this group? And this is why peer pressure is such a real thing for the teenage brain.
And it's hard for the family too. Like, I'm thinking to myself right now, would I rather my kid be a loner, no friends, comes home all the time, but gets to spend time with their family, and they are staying close to their family their entire life? Or
Right.
branch out, get
Yeah.
friends, ignore us,
Right.
and hopefully circle back and
Well,
still
this is one of the
appreciate
reasons
us
why
later.
homeschool families love homeschooling, because you have a greater influence over your kids' peer group, and you have a greater
Yeah.
knowledge about it versus a traditional school environment. Your child's away from the house so long, you have less influence. So the main
Right. And you
things
don't know what
that
they're doing.
the teenage brain is thinking is, how can I fit into this adult world? How do I fit in this world?
Yeah. We're all thinking that. We all want to be part of the popular gang or
Mm.
the crew or over here.
Mm-hmm.
We go where we fit in. Some people go to the drama route because, or the cheerleading route or the football route or whatever it is, because maybe it's more accepting. Maybe you're just buff and beefy and you can hit someone. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I must be a football
Yeah.
player. But the reality is in your mind, you're like,
Right.
well, I
Yeah.
don't
It
want to
doesn't
be
work
this.
for me. I'm
This
not
isn't
good
me.
at it. So this
Right.
document reads,
Right.
teenagers work at refining a sense of self by testing roles and then integrating them to form a single identity, or they become confused about who they are. And this other document reads that it's really
Mm-hmm.
about integrated image of oneself as a um, unique person. So what you'll find is that the high school stage is about fitting in, and then right around age 18, you're going to see a
Yeah.
shift, and you're going to see, how do I stand out? I don't want to be a clone. I don't want to be just one of the group. I want to be unique. And that's why you see a lot of seniors act so
Right.
different than a junior, because their brain just switches. Like, what? I don't want to just go with the flow. I want to be unique. I don't want to go
Yeah.
with the way, my friends are going. I want to be different than my friends now. And so then you see.
The ultimate goal is to help teach our kids that sooner in life, but that's hard to
And
do,
that's the
man.
hardest. Why we have them build identity in healthy things and healthy habits, healthy choices.
What's the saying? It's like, what if all your kids were rumming poop in their hair and
Right.
jumping off of the bridge?
Yeah.
Would you
And
do
so,
that too?
yeah. And this is why,
You
going
know?
back to, here's my last pointer as we wrap up today. We got to parent the child we have, not the child we want.
Yeah. And we have to let them know that we're
And we
okay
got to
with that.
parent in acceptance.
Because if they don't know that, they're going to
Parenting
think
in
otherwise,
acceptance
right?
means you don't always have to accept their bad or dangerous behaviors or their negative identity choices, but we parent in love. And love,
Yeah.
that's a good word. So I'm thankful for love.
That's
So if
good.
you ever get confused yourself in parenting, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, I'm thankful that we have this word called love, and that when in doubt, be loving. That's my closing thoughts. What's your closing
I
thoughts
love
for
that.
today?
Gosh, I've learned so much. I want to keep this conversation going. I'm thankful that we have this knowledge because ultimately I didn't know what my identity was until much later in life. And not saying that
Mm-hmm.
I should have known it earlier, but what I love is that we're telling parents that we can help our
Yes.
kids figure that out, and we could figure it out with them as like a partnership instead of us telling them or us thinking they should do X, Y,
Yes.
or Z. So I'm thankful that we've
Mm.
kind of dissected this and can ultimately help our kids figure out their identity. And shoot, maybe us adults listening are like, I still need to figure out my identity. Let's
A parent's words are
explore.
powerful. Use yours wisely.